Good day! Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something completely different. Take a hard left into what I hope is hard-hitting journalism. I am going to, as the thumbnail slash title says, be doing a kind of timeline of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial that is going on now. I'm sure, like other people, I have just been riveted by what's going on here. I have so many opinions. There's so much going on behind the scenes with this trial that I have found fascinating, and I'm going to use it as my first opportunity to talk about something other than makeup. So I have my little laptop in front of me, so please forgive me if I'm looking. There's a lot here going on. And I'm also going to try to insert some video where I can. I need to learn how to do all of these technological things as I move on with my YouTube channel. So we are going to start from the very beginning. Think way back in 2009. Do you remember the movie The Rum Diaries? Me either. But apparently it was where Johnny Depp and Amber Heard first met. It was based on a novel by Hunter S. Thompson, who I know. And Johnny Depp played Paul Kemp, who was a journalist who moves to Puerto Rico and becomes obsessed with Amber Heard's character. Hilariously, I'm an actor, and this is when art intimidates life. Life imitates art, because obviously Amber and Johnny start dating after this. In 2012, Depp and Vanessa, I want to say Paradise, but it's French, so I'm sure it's like Paradis. This lovely, beautiful French actress were together for 14 years. They ended their relationship. They had 2 children together, one of who I think is a model now. I'm not exactly sure. And it actually turned out that in one of Johnny Depp's depositions, they ask if his children were involved in a relationship with Amber at all, and he says, no, they're much smarter than I am. They stayed away from her, which I just find hilarious that both of his kids didn't like her immediately and weren't around. You are going to quickly realize that I have a biased opinion. I definitely think that their relationship was very traumatic on both sides, but I think the evidence is out that Amber Heard was definitely the instigator. She was definitely the one who ended up physically hitting Johnny Depp. There is absolutely no evidence for Johnny Depp hitting Amber, and there is tons of evidence, including Amber herself on tape saying that she has hit Johnny Depp over and over and over again. And I find it fascinating that in this post-Me Too world, that when this first came out, Johnny Depp was immediately villainized, and he lost Pirates, he lost Fantastic Beasts, and he was made out to be a wife beater for years and years. And now it's taking a 2-3 week long trial to essentially, once all of this evidence has been shown that Amber is actually the perpetrator and Johnny is the victim, how much we're going through to prove that this is going on. It's kind of screwed up, but I mean, hopefully the trial's going to go on for a couple weeks, but we'll see inevitably that the justice will, what's the saying? Justice will prevail. Justice will prevail. So after Heard and Depp started dating, they were spotted with an engagement ring in 2014, and Depp appears to confirm the engagement later in interviews. In 2015, they get married in Australia. They're actually given shit because they snuck in their 2 dogs, Pistol and Boo, I think their dogs are called, into Australia, and she produced false documents to prove that they were allowed to bring their dogs in when really they weren't. And later they put out a somber apology video about how sorry they were for sneaking in their dogs into the country. Soon after they got married, the trouble started. There was a fight in a bar in Australia. This is where Johnny Depp allegedly lost his finger. He has one of his, I think it's on his right hand, I think it's his ring finger on his right hand, is severed. Just half of the nail is gone. And he says that what had happened was they were at a bar. Amber said she wanted him to stop drinking. He poured himself another shot of vodka, and she picked up a vodka bottle and threw it at his head, and it whizzed past his head. And he said he had his arm on the bar, and she threw another vodka bottle, and it hit his hand and slammed against the bar and essentially severed one of his fingers. His security team backs up this story, and he was taken to the hospital where they could not reattach his finger, which he said he found later. And there's pictures of him a couple days after with like a napkin or a bandana wrapped around his finger, and he's holding Amber's hand, and it's a publicity photo in Australia. And I just find that absolutely mind-boggling. But I mean, you know, domestic violence, really, I have been in a domestic violent relationship, and it lasted almost 3 years. So I totally get that. I had a boyfriend who was violent towards me, and you know, as much as I knew in my mind that I should get away from him, I did not for a long time. And so I know how insidious that can be. So in 2016, Heard files for divorce and is granted a temporary restraining order against him. She claimed that Depp had been violently, brutally beating her this entire time, and that he threw a phone at her. She said, quote, "During the entirety of our relationship, Johnny Depp has been verbally and physically abusive towards me," she said in a sworn declaration. "He has a short fuse and is often paranoid, and his temper is exceptionally scary for me." She wrote she was living in fear that Johnny would return to our house unannounced to terrorize me physically and emotionally, end quote. A judge rejected Heard's request that Depp attend a year's worth of anger management classes and refused to extend the protection order to their dog, which I find semi-hilarious. I watched her deposition video that was done in 2016, and it was fairly mind-boggling. This woman is an actor, as am I, and she seemed like she could have not given two shits about this deposition video. She was essentially telling the cops that her husband was beating her. She was saying that, you know, she was this victim of domestic abuse, and she looked so bored during this deposition video. She was eating. I'm shocked they let her eat. And in the video, you can go back and watch it, she's eating something, and sometimes they'll ask her a question and she'll speak with her mouth full. She'd be like, "Oh, I was talking to Johnny." And then sometimes when she didn't know the answer to the question, she did the whole like she didn't want to talk with her mouth full. She at one point in time was like she kept looking around everywhere. Her words seemed fairly lazy. You're an actress, girlfriend. Like, if you're going to make these allegations, act like it. Act like it. I was just shocked at the no fucks given attitude that she had during this deposition, during her deposition. So after this, the police decided that they weren't going to press charges against Depp because he denied attacking her. And later in a joint statement, they announced that they'd settled their divorce. They said, "Our relationship was intensely passionate and volatile, but it was always bound by love." And Heard said that she would donate half of her settlement from the divorce to charity, which is a whole other bag of crap. She got $7 million in her divorce settlement, and she says that she was going to donate 3.5 to the ACLU, and she ended up donating $300,000, and then they never saw a penny from her again. They actually had a representative come and do a witness testimony in their trial, and he was like, "Yeah, we got one check for her for $300,000, and then the contact ended." And then, interestingly enough, she started dating Elon Musk after Depp, And it looks like, I'm not exactly sure how, I think Elon Musk is going to be testifying later this week, which should be fascinating. He's so interesting in the way that he speaks. He's very slow, very methodical. He thinks about stuff. He's not the most eloquent speaker, but he's definitely brilliant. I would love to sit down and have a freaking dinner with that guy. And he dated Amber after, and it looks like he ended up paying the ACLU about $500,000 for her for this. I'm sure they'll get into that later in the trial. I've been watching most of this trial live because I just find it freaking fascinating. So after they filed for divorce, after they were divorced, what had happened in 2018 was Amber wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post. If she didn't write this op-ed for the Washington Post, this whole trial would have never happened, because the trial is that Johnny Depp is claiming defamation. He's claiming defamation of character from this Washington Post op-ed. She wrote it herself, and she claims in it, she says, quote, "I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out," end quote. Heard didn't mention Johnny Depp by name, but she mentions her experience with abuse from childhood to adulthood. And at the crux of the article, Heard asks for support from women experiencing domestic violence. Quote, "We have an opening now to bolster and build institutions protective of women. For starters, Congress can reauthorize and strengthen the Violence Against Women Act," end quote. So then the whole world pretty much thought that this was Johnny Depp. I mean, it's obvious. She had just, they had just gotten divorced. There was all of this public scrutiny towards Johnny Depp. He immediately lost his jobs, and so he seeks $50 million in damage because he was claiming that the Post article was a ruse for her to kind of garner up positive press for herself. And Depp also claims that she's not the victim of domestic violence, but instead she's the perpetrator. And I had heard during the trial that she had actually tried to get the Washington Post op-ed to come out immediately after either Aquaman or Aquaman 2 came out, so as to get more press for the movie. I'm not exactly sure of the timing of each of those, but rumor on the street has it that she was specifically trying to do this. In 2020, audio is heard of Heard allegedly saying that she hit Johnny Depp, and it's published by the Daily Mail. Later, a libel trial is held in the United Kingdom over the British newspaper The Sun, calling Depp a wife-beater. Johnny Depp sues both the executive editor, Don Wootton, and The Sun's parent company, Newspapers. His ex-partner Paradise defends Depp by submitting a statement that's saying the actor is the furthest thing from a violent person, which I think is so telling. She was with Johnny Depp for 14 years. They have 2 children together. If anyone would know, it would be Vanessa. And funnily enough, Amber's ex-girlfriend, I believe, had sued her or claimed abuse from Heard herself. So I don't know why there's so much immediate negativity towards Johnny, thinking that he's this wife beater when he has a 14-year relationship with this woman who said that he's the most gentle person ever, and then she has history of abuse with her ex-partner. So Depp brings forward claims that Amber had affairs with Elon Musk and actor James Franco, both who should be hitting the stands next week. And he also claims that Amber put her own fecal matter in their bed and was physically violent towards him. I'm going to be going into more about that fecal matter incidents later because it's fascinating stuff. The judge sided with The Sun, which is too bad. The judge said, quote, "Domestic abuse victims must never be silenced." And we thank the judge for his careful consideration and thank Amber Heard for her courage in giving evidence to the court, end quote, said the newspaper in a statement. After the ruling, Johnny Depp posted a statement on Instagram saying he's been asked to exit the Fantastic Beasts franchise. He said, quote, "I wish to let you know that I've been asked to resign by Warner Brothers for my role as Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts. I have respected and agreed to that request," end quote, he wrote. it was really sad hearing him on the stand talk about all of these beautiful things that were taken away from him. Jack Sparrow taken away from him, Grindelwald taken away from him, over something that, you know, it should be innocent until proven guilty, and he was guilty until proven innocent. And it's been years. It's already been, you know, probably 4 years is what I think when the article first came out. Imagine 4 years of being a public figure where people think that you're a wife beater. In 2021, Amber countersued Depp for $100 million. So that's what this whole trial is about, trying to figure out who owes who money. This year, 2022, on April 11th, the weeks-long defamation trial kicks off, with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp appearing in court. In the defense's opening statement, attorney Rottenborn reads the entirety of Amber's post-op-ed to the jury and tells them that the actress exercised her right to free speech. And on April 19th, Depp takes the stand and testifies over the course of 4 days. Can you imagine being in court for 4 days, sitting there being asked questions about like days that you don't remember? It's funny, I have such an awful memory. I keep journals and really vigorous freaking notes about what I'm doing every day. I have a physically written day planner that I've kept my old day planners literally just in case something like this happens. If a cop came up to me and was like, what were you doing last year on April 21st? I would be like, I have no freaking clue, which is why I have my day planners and I keep all of my finances like rigorously kept just in case some shit like this happens, that I would have something written out. I don't plan on being in trouble with the law, but I'm sure Johnny Depp didn't either. So the prosecutors during this trial lay out evidence of Amber's alleged abuse, while the defense focuses on Johnny Depp's past drug and alcohol use, text message and recordings claiming that Johnny perpetrated the violence. I think this is so funny. So Johnny's side of all of his lawyers have legit evidence. They have testimonies from witnesses, his security, his driver, about Amber being violent and erratic and crazy, as one of Johnny Depp's security detail, this Scottish man who's so funny. I'll figure out his name here really quickly, but the lawyer couldn't understand him a couple times and was like, sorry, can you repeat that? And he calls Amber crazy. And they have all of this evidence, tapes of her saying that she hit him, tapes, her physical voice that I assume that she started recording. And then all of her evidence is hearsay or the fact that he drank and did drugs. Just because you drink and do drugs, that doesn't mean that you beat your wife. I am 9 years sober. I used to drink. I used to do drugs. Have I ever heard anyone like that? Absolutely not. And to go that low, to be like, well, he's done cocaine, so he's probably, his character is awful, so he probably beat his wife, is such a low blow argument. And then they bring on his accountant also, and they essentially make his accountant say that he went through hard times financially, and so because he went through hard times financially, he must be a wife beater. It's absolutely ridiculous. So as this trial goes on, they had many interesting witnesses on the stand. A favorite of mine was a psychologist, Shannon Curry, who was hired by Johnny Depp's legal team to testify in court. She is this absolutely beautiful, probably 40-year-old blonde woman who is charismatic and so eloquent in her speaking. She was kind. She was patient. I would not be as patient as she was. She turned and explained things to the jury. She's a clinical and forensic psychologist who testified that she diagnosed Amber with borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. Amber's lawyer was attempting to trap the psychologist with mumbo jumbo and generalizations, and she was having none of it. This Dr. Shannon Curry, the female lawyer, who was awful, by the way, was questioning Curry, and she said, quote, would you agree that a disproportionate number of women are tagged with personality disorder, end quote? Curry says, no, that's not quite right. And time again, she's asking this woman, the doctor, all of these questions to essentially say that, you know, this is because Amber may or may not have these disorders, or lots of women do, and it's because of trauma, and it's because of PTSD. And Dr. Curry is just like, no, that's not true. No, that's not true. I did all of these tests on Amber, and all of these tests state that she has exaggerated her symptoms. That it says at one point in time they did this kind of baseline test for PTSD, and there's essentially 20 characteristics or symptoms to say that you have PTSD. And on the highest level of someone who has the most PTSD with the most characteristics and symptoms, they would have probably about 16 of the 20 characteristics. And Amber claimed that she had 19, which is almost impossible. She did a bunch of these tests. She spent hours and hours with this Dr. Curry doing tests to figure out that she had borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder, which in my understanding is pretty much just severe exaggeration and vanity and like an overimportance of herself, and prone to violence and getting histrionic, if that's how you pronounce that word. So all the while this woman is on the witness stand, Amber Heard is just sitting there with her like notepad and her pen, like she's a psychologist herself. It was mind-boggling to watch her as she's being essentially told that she has all of these disorders, and she's like looking so somber. I'm sure if you have been following the trial at all, you've seen some of the clips or the memes. There's this one where it's like when Amber remembers she's being recorded and she's talking to her lawyer, and she's like mind-boggling. Like, oh. Okay, so one of my favorite parts of when this psychologist is being interviewed is at the end when Amber Heard's female lawyer, this older woman who you should watch the opening statements, because she just, you think you would have time to prepare these opening statements, but she is humming and hawing and ooh and and not making any sense and pulling things out of midair, and like, this woman has money. Why does she not have a better lawyer? So at the end, when she's finishing interviewing Dr. Curry, she says to her, quote, "Would you agree, that is, you did not find something that would be in favor of Mr. Depp and negative to Miss Heard, that you wouldn't be an expert in this case?" End quote. What does that even mean? And then she continues, quote, "Why bring you into court if you're going to say that Miss Heard is right and Mr. Depp is wrong?" End quote. So what she's essentially saying is that you've been hired because you're here to say that Amber is crazy and Depp is not. And whilst, you know, Curry is just clear and concise, and she talks to the jury explaining things, and she's making sure that she says that multiple times, that this is just science. This is the science, the facts, that, you know, she has a retainer, that even though Johnny Depp paid her for her retainer, she's there as an expert witness, and it's written into her contract that her number one responsibility is to tell the truth and to tell the science, which is what she did. She was probably my favorite witness. There were also quite a few other very interesting witnesses. One of them was Johnny's bodyguard, the Scottish guy I told you about. His name was Malcolm Connolly. When he asked how often he saw Johnny Depp use drugs and alcohol, Connolly said that he didn't see it very often. And he cracked a joke that Jack Sparrow is more drunk than Johnny Depp ever was. And everyone starts laughing in the court. There were so many times in these depositions that people just said the nicest things about Johnny, or, you know, they say funny things that he did or kind things that he did, and everyone would just laugh and joke jovially. It was great. And so the bodyguard stated that he never saw any injuries on her ever. He stated that he did see injuries on Johny. They started small, they got progressively worse. Scratches on his neck, a fat lip, bruising in the eye socket. They produced a picture in front of him that this bodyguard took of him on his honeymoon where there's a mark under his left eye. He stated that he saw that Johny went from very lovey-dovey to a real unhappiness real quick. He said in the 20 years that he's known him that he's only seen him drunk twice, and most of the time he was the same person when he was drunk. He had the same demeanor. The lawyers are like, well, what about when he smoked pot? And he was like, he was just the same. He was chill. His vibe was great. Like, I never saw him like out of control. And he said, well, what about when he does cocaine? And he said, well, I don't know if he ever did cocaine. Like, I had my suspicions because, he would go off in the bathroom and come back. But even then he was just like happy and bubbly, and he'd grab his guitar and, but he never showed any violence. One thing that all of these witnesses said was that they didn't show any violence. One of my favorite witnesses, God, they were all good, was one of Amber Heard's former assistant. She was from, I think, Australia or New Zealand, and she was with her for a couple years. And this woman was just obviously not happy to be there, obviously really didn't like Amber, and her demeanor was so cold, and she just took Amber to court, really. She said that she was underpaid. She said that she was constantly abused. She said that her own mother was afraid of her. She said that her sister was a punching bag. And then as soon as she starts talking about Johny, she lights up and she's like, Johny was so good with my kid, and he gave him presents, and he was always treating me nice. I wish I knew her name. I got all of these names except hers because she was fairly early on. Johnny Depp's driver was next. His valet. His name was Starling Jenkins, which is such a cool name. I feel like it's like a supervillain name or like a superhero name. Starling Jenkins, or like a porn star, one or the other. He tells about Amber's 30th birthday party where they got in a fight. Amber threw his phone, wallet, passport over the balcony. And then he went looking for Johnny's iPhone using the My Phone app, and he tracked it down to Skid Row where a homeless man had the phone. He approached the homeless man and said, hi, like, I think you have Johnny Depp's phone. The homeless man was so kind, and he was like, yeah, actually I do. Like, here, you can have it back. And so he gave him a reward. And when this Starling was asked what the reward is, he said $420, chicken tacos, Fiji water, chips, an apple. And everyone just kind of cracks up and is like, oh, that's so nice. Later, he testifies that he took Amber and all of her friends to Coachella, and where he witnessed Amber get sick on red wine and magic mushrooms. And in the cross-examine, her lawyers were like, well, how did you know that she got sick on red wine and magic mushrooms? And he's like, I was there. I watched it. I saw it happen, which I find interesting because no one has seen Johny do cocaine. No one has seen. They're putting this all on him that he's a drug addict and an alcoholic, and everyone's like, no, like, yeah, he had a couple drinks, he liked his drinks, he probably smoked some pot, but like, I never really witnessed it, and he was never really out of hand. And yet this driver said that Amber got really sick off magic mushrooms and red wine. And then later they claim that it was Amber's sister who was sick from being pregnant. And they're like, you're confusing the women. And this Starling Jenkins says, I know the difference between the two women. One is Johnny's wife and the other is his sister-in-law. Johnny's lawyer asks if he had any conversations with Amber on the way to Coachella. And he said, we had a conversation pertaining to the surprise that he left in Johnny's bed. The lawyer asks, quote, what are you referring to? End quote. Starling says, quote, the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed, a horrible practical joke gone wrong, end quote. And then later or earlier, Johnny Depp had testified about this. So allegedly what had happened was she was mad at Johny, and so she took a shit on his side of the bed and took a picture of it and sent it to him, or the maid sent it to him or something. And you can see when he's testifying about it, he doesn't say like took shit. He's like trying to kind of still be a gentleman. And so he testified, quote, on my side of the bed was human fecal matter. I laughed. it was so outside, it was so bizarre and so grotesque that I could only laugh, end quote. Which I think is so funny. She blamed the feces on her Yorkies, those two dogs, Pistol and Boot. And Depp said, quote, "I lived with those dogs for many years. I've cleaned up their fun. That did not come from a dog. It just didn't," end quote. Absolutely nutbar. If that doesn't tell you that this woman is a crazy person, then nothing else will. There's so many things that this trial keeps bringing up and talking about. It's no wonder that, like, their case against her is so solid. It's going to be fascinating to see what still progresses, because they still have like a week's worth of trial. I've been filming for 30 minutes and I still have like pages and pages of this. So I'm going to try to make this quick, even though I find it fascinating. And I did all the research, so you guys can sit here and just grab a snack, grab a coffee. I got my water, my giant. And I got my coffee way back here. This is my second coffee. What time is it? It's 11:30 at night and I drink coffee. When I get home, at late at night, I usually, my boyfriend makes me a pot of coffee and I sit and have a coffee or two and then I go to bed. It's crazy, but I love it. All right, we are going to talk about the bathroom incident. So Johny claimed that Amber roundhouse punched him, which resulted in a bruise under his eye. He also claimed that during the altercation, he thought that she hurt her foot on a door. So what I insinuated to have happened was that they were in a fight. He was trying to get away from her and he was like, "I just need to cool off. I need to cool off." And he was like trying to get into the bathroom and close the door. And she like kept getting in the way and like put her foot there and stuff. And he closed the door and she was like, "Oh my God, my foot, you hurt my foot." And so he opened the door and went to check on her and she kicked the bathroom door into his head. He says, quote, "I was completely taken aback by such a corrosive, horrific move," end quote. She claims that she was the one who was trying to run away from him. On a different day, a video of Johny and Amber arguing becomes aggressive. It was played during the trial, and Johny is seen pouring wine while angrily asking, "Want to see crazy? I'll give you fucking crazy. I got your crazy. All your crazy." Which I totally understand. Like, if you're being pushed, man, if I had been videoed, like, when I was in my abusive relationship, I was drinking. I don't drink anymore. I was drinking. I was doing drugs. I'm sure I said awful things. I'm sure I pushed him back. Like, if someone is pushing you to that brink, like I had my nose broken, then you're gonna fight back. And it seems like Johny didn't. All he did was like take it out in, like he said, like, "I heard a cabinet, but I never punched her." He notices that she's recording and he tussles with her when the video cuts out. Johny Depp confirmed to Amber's lawyer during questioning that it was him in the video that was in his West Hollywood penthouse. And the lawyer says, "You would agree you were violent in that clip, correct?" The lawyer asks. Depp replies, "Clearly I was having a bad day. I did assault a couple of cabinets, but I did not touch Mrs. Heard." When asked if he was drunk when the video was taken, Depp said it was possible. The lawyer says, "You poured yourself a mega pint of red wine, correct?" Depp replied, "A mega pint? I poured myself a large glass of wine. I thought it necessary." And his tone is so like quiet and monotone. And he has this somewhat of an accent. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Very Jack Sparrow. We found out during the trial that he was abused in his childhood. Johny said that during his childhood, physical abuse from his mother was constant, with abuse coming in the form of ashtrays being flung, high-heeled shoes, or the telephone being used to beat him. He said he wanted to make sure his children didn't experience that kind of upbringing. While I was doing I made a note here to say this, while I was doing the research for this, I noticed so many articles being biased towards Amber, and with all of the evidence, that absolutely boggles my mind. CBC specifically had an article that was written on the 22nd. Today's the 28th. And with all of the evidence that was already out, where Amber on video is saying that she hit him, that she was hitting him, it boggles my mind that the CBC is putting out articles biased towards Amber saying that Johny is an abuser. Mind-boggling. So they also had a marriage counselor being interviewed. The couple, the marriage counselor said that the couple abused each other during their vicious quarrels, and she testified in a videotaped deposition. With Miss Heard, he was triggered, and they engaged in what I saw as mutual abuse, said Dr. Laurel Anderson. I know she led on more than one occasion, and she started it. Amber told the marital counselor that she had hit, socked, and thrown a can at Johny Depp on various occasions, but she also said that he had hurt her. The therapist said, quote, "It was a point of pride to Amber if she felt disrespected to initiate a fight. Miss Heard had a jackhammer style of talking. He was cut off a lot," end quote. During the couple's therapy sessions, which began in October 2015, Johny had difficulty having a voice, according to the clinical psychologists. I have some more information about the finger, when he got his finger cut off. Johny Depp told jurors on a direct examination that his ex-wife hurled an enormous bottle of vodka at him, smashing his hand and severing the tip of his right middle finger. The pair were in Australia, where Johny Depp was filming the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie and had a vicious fight in 2015 over a post-nuptial agreement that he had asked her to sign. What I felt was heat. I felt heat, and I felt as if something was dripping down my hand. I looked down and I realized the tip of my finger had been severed. I was looking directly at my bones sticking out. There is photo evidence showing Johny Depp with a cast on his finger. And there's also evidence of an alleged cigarette burn on his cheek when he's getting treatment for his injured finger. He says that Amber had taken my cigarette from the ashtray and stomped it out on my face. One thing that is shocking are texts from Johny to, who was it? Some famous actor, Paul Bettany, about drowning and burning then girlfriend Amber Heard. He said, "Let's drown her before we burn her. I will fuck her burnt corpse afterwards to make sure she's dead." He explains his text message as a horrific sense of humor, which, do you know what, people should be allowed to say what they want to their friends. It's kind of amazing that you can dig up personal text messages from one friend to another. Should he say that he is going to kill her? Absolutely not. But if he's being physically abused, then, people are going to say stuff. And to use that as, he's actually hurting her, he's actually hitting her. I don't know how fair that is. But that's it for now. That's everything that I have on the trial thus far. I will probably be doing a follow-up video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too boring listening to me essentially read the notes that I've written on my laptop up until now. I want to figure out how to get more interactive. In order to memorize all of that, I have good memorization as an actor, but in order to memorize 37 minutes worth of dialogue, that's going to take me a hot minute. So I'm going to try to figure out an easier way to go about this. I would love any questions, comments down below. Let's not start a little hate vent. If you are Team Amber, see ya. And until next time, keep fit and have fun. Oh wait, that one's already taken. Be well. Bye.